Welcome to Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. This is where we have deep, intimate conversations about self-empowerment and future existence. I am an intuitive healer and a light leader who has been called to activate other light leaders. So I'm curious, are you one of them? So by listening, lean in and see if you are ready to be that eternal potential you've been called to be. Using your bravery, your talent, your tenacity, can you be innovative and adventurous in order to activate your light and lead from that place? This is where we learn how to love ourselves from the inside out and love the whole world over and over again. Enjoy the show. So everybody, I am having this beautiful, amazing woman who is such a gift to us. I'm just going to say it straight up, a gift. I've been following her for a while now, and she was on my show last year. And so I thought I wanted to have her back because of her skill set and to have a larger conversation about what's occurring in our country right now. So I want to welcome a channeler, as well as a divine teacher and a medium. She's a go-between. This is what I'm making up, Caroline. She's a go-between between the etheric realms and is able to express it to us so we can understand it and begin to do our own connecting to those higher realms and frequencies and everything. So I want to welcome Caroline Oceana Ryan.
Thank you so much, Susan. Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
I'm so sorry that preamble was like, but I really want everybody to know what you do, because you do so much, not only write, but you're channeling, you do guided meditations. We were just talking about it before last time you were on. We had talked about your latest book about abundance for healers. And I do your gold frequency meditation, which just helped open up the, so I consciously, when I walk my dogs, Caroline, I consciously focus on that gold dust.
Perfect.
The gold dust, I feel it right now coming in, that comes through all the time. And you're the one that taught me to pay attention to that. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so glad, Susan. It's very healing. That monoatomic gold dust, that's one of the most high vibrational things on the planet. It's pouring in every moment from our wonderful sun Sol, and it's going into every cell of the body, every particle of mind, spirit, emotions, all of our energy bodies. It's lifting us up. Now, it can be a little tiring to deal with that transition from the heaviness, the intensity of third dimensional Earth and our third dimensional lives. Most of us have lived many of them. It can be a bit much because we are releasing all that old toxicity, the old programming, the old pain and trauma, these old paradigm idea that we have to suffer in order to grow spiritually. That's not true anymore. Not at all.
And I gotta say, you're the first person I think I heard that said you don't have to suffer. It doesn't have to be hard. And I remember years ago, when I would go to a gym to work out, and the trainers would say, no pain, no gain. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't want it to be painful. Otherwise, I won't do it. And hello,
yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. It's that part of that hustle culture deal where you just have to hustle all the time. Like you have to work hard. You can't really enjoy your work, or you run a business. It ends up running you instead of you running it. Trading time for money kind of a thing, something I've been looking at a lot lately. I just keep looking at different areas of my life and saying, why does this have to be hard? Why does that have to be painful? Or why does it have to be struggle there? And I'm remaking like how I eat, when I eat, and absolutely exercise is one of them, how I look at money, how I work, relationships. I'm not doing this tough sort of struggle, tug of war back and forth anymore between what I want and what's happening. No, we can really struggle.
Well, and isn't that part of, I'm sorry, Caroline, isn't that part of what we're evolving through or growing through of the hardened patriarchy that has been running the planet for centuries is finally coming to an end, and not because the divine masculine is awful, but because the divine masculine at some point got demoted, if you will, down to a low frequency vibration, and then all this patriarchal subterfuge has been happening for so long. So to wait for us to wake up and go, oh, we don't have to do it that way. It can be easy. It can be fun and fruitful.
Perfect. That's quite a good reading. I feel, anyway, it's one that I flow with. I think a lot of people would. If you're a sensitive, aware person, you're noticing the toxic or wounded masculinity we've lived under for eons. They had to keep children and women and certain groups, certain religions, certain ethnicities or races, had to keep them down. You're here to be our slaves and our servants. I know this simplifies, but anyway, have to keep them down there. And then we are the kings. We're going to rule everything. Don't worry, we'll take care of you somehow. That's just all gone. That's ending. It's just not going to work anymore at all. No.
And as we were talking about before we hit record, that is some of what we're seeing in our country right now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
It's not so much that our like we were talking about Social Security and that is being threatened, but it's not collapsing. It's because the patriarchy, those few that think that they are entitled, or I hate that word, it gets bandied about a lot, but they're the few that think they're running the country.
Yeah, or the world.
Or the world. Yeah. They're continuing to repeat the patterns that had worked for them in the past. And what we're getting to watch and observe is they're not working.
Exactly right. That's excellent. That's an excellent statement. And I have only heard one other person say, okay, this worked in Germany in the 1920s and 30s. Guess what? It's 100 years later. Humanity has shifted. People have been standing up, non-whites, women, young people, LGBTQ, two-spirit, everybody standing up and saying, look, I'm human too. You're not going to underpay me. You're not going to treat me like I don't get to vote. Unfortunately, a lot of people are trying. They've been suppressing votes. Going to trample on our human rights. We're used to that. We've been doing that for decades upon decades. We're not suddenly going to float back to the 1920s where people were used to getting kicked around and being happy for whatever scraps the 0.01% people would throw them. That's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. And also, this light pouring into the planet is so phenomenal. It's not going to let it. We've literally, I don't know if your lovely audience are aware of this. I wasn't aware until I read about it recently. But this spring equinox that we had in March, 21st, etc., Ostara, in the old pagan tradition, it was also the end of the age of destruction, the 28,000 year, 27,000 year almost age of destruction called the Kali Yuga is a Hindu term. So that ended. And now the age of peace and prosperity begins. Now, does it happen in the blink of an eye? No, but it's beginning to come in.
Oh my God, you just gave me a huge dose of hope because, and it's the one that just happened. The one that just happened. So if the age of destruction, how long had it been going on? This age of destruction?
Like 6,000 years all told.
Oh, no wonder I feel exhausted.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. Very long time. And so this next era, that's like this, latest part of the age of destruction was that long. Generally, I think the 26,800 years in each yuga, each era. There's 4 of them, and the cycle reruns. Apparently, this age of prosperity and peace is going to be doubled. So we'll have more like 54,000 years of that. But the next time an age of destruction comes along, it won't be as low and as destructive. All it means is nothing really ultra bad. All it means is that that which is no longer working for humanity in the earth breaks down. It just begins to break down. And that's why we see all this disorder and chaos and general madness.
Yeah, it's been happening for several years now.
Yeah.
Let's see, Well, I'll be fair. It started happening before 2016, but
Yeah. I mean, this orange person is a sort of chaos agent, one might say, a disorder. And I don't care at all how people vote. Totally up to you. That's fine. I understand people. Well, I have so many lovely family members who support that party. I don't feel he's of that party. I feel he's of another party, which should have ended in Germany in the 40s, but it didn't. It carried on in other iterations. And many of those scientists, philosophers, intellectuals of the Third Reich were brought over in Project Paperclip to Canada and the US. And that's how we have NASA, because the Nazis had a space program, and Werner von Braun was pulled into the space program in Germany. I don't think he liked them very much, that authority, but he had to bow to it. And then he came over here and started ours. So people have to understand it's all one. The power structure that has run the world for thousands of years, which some people will say, began with the Anunnaki or this group or that, that has not really been a matter of, well, it's this crowd over here in this country, or it's this corporation, or it's this wealthy person. It's spread throughout. There's 13 powerful families spread throughout the world. And one's country boundaries do not really matter. Okay, they just don't. We can talk about, oh, this country's bad and this country's awful and they're our enemies. That's all programming. That's all a load of BS.
yeah.
Extends throughout. They're always working their agenda, regardless of the country, always. So, we've had German people. I'm half German, so I could say this.
I have some German too, so yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Did you have sauerkraut and
Oh yeah.
Latin? Yeah.
Yeah.
As my mother used to bake. There have been people born in this country who are loyal to their Nazi family roots, and some are from South Africa as well. The KKK basically are equal with the Fourth Reich, the Nazis.
Yeah.
So we need to realize that when we see somebody like the orange person whose father in this country, at least, wasn't actually born here, but anyway, in this country, his adopted father was a Grand Wizard of the KKK, and he was present for all that programming and the violence, and stuck into situations where if he was going to be acceptable to that family, he was going to have to follow those beliefs and be part. He was also an experiment in someone being raised without love. He was supposed to be a dictator, and he's trying very hard to step into that level. That he's part of the 13 families, and he has been pushed into that role. He's been trying to become the dictator. I do not see that it's going to work. He's so separate from the party he claims to be a part of that I think the Republican leadership are standing back, and people in the Pentagon likewise are standing back and saying, we can't do this. We're going to build so much rage out in the population if we continue to support this guy.
Well, you know what? Okay.
Sunk.
Caroline, why didn't they figure that out on January 7th when the Capitol was attacked? That was horrific to me. And I thought that's a no-brainer, right? Everybody's going to get it.
Yeah. Because they decided to use him for the purpose of pushing forward the rights of the corporation, even further beyond the rights of the individual. That was already decided during Ronald Reagan's terms in office. But he established rights of the individual are superseded by the preferences and rights of the corporation. And they decided, well, the corporations can rule now, which is fascist rule. And they thought they'd all tremendously do incredibly well financially. They would just all become billionaires. They took bribes, and mostly Washington runs on bribes and threats. And I don't see that Westminster Parliament in Britain is any much better.
Right.
In many places, many government seats of government in the world,
yeah,
they run on bribes and threats, and that's how they do business. And the people are noticing, meanwhile, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to be representing me? Aren't you supposed to be somebody who gives a damn whether I have to live in my car or out in a tent because I don't have, I can't pay for medication and rent already? As it is, a lot of seniors are in that position.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen now? They want to get rid of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid completely. They want to get rid of human rights completely. But the idea, as one of my clients emailed me early on a couple months ago when all this started, and she said, is this real? Is this going to stick, or are they just doing shock and awe? And I said, it's definitely shock and awe. They want us to be terrified. They want us shaking in our boots so that we crawl to them for whatever crumbs they'll send us. And it's rubbish. I don't think it's going to last. And he admitted as well, again, not trying to insult anybody's party or anybody's voting, but he had admitted that, as he's called, the muskrat, fix the machines in many states. Yeah. So,
Oh my God.
which they threw out hundreds of thousands of votes in the South. They threw people off voting rolls and they threw out ballots, provisional ballots after this.
I was very surprised that they got away with it.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. I mean, I was angry on behalf of Kamala Harris because no one should be denied their rightful place in government. And then the whole world thinks, oh, they love Trump over there. No, he did not win. He did not win. And it's just kind of astounding to me how things work. But this is a machine, and I see the machine falling apart. I literally see it falling apart.
I just take a deep breath.
Yeah, the old matrix is dissolving. And that gets us all addicted to that form of living where we just accept it, accept being oppressed and underpaid or barely paid and abandoned if we're veterans or elderly or children or what have you, and utterly oppressed if you're the wrong skin color, the wrong gender, orientation, etc. So they're hoping we'll crawl into a hole somewhere and do nothing. And all these angry town halls. It's so amazing because all they've done is wake people up. What they've started to do is wake people up. And, really, Susan and all our friends watching or listening, all of this light pouring in, it's shaking all the old structures right at their foundation. It's bringing them down. It's a load of rubble. It's a lot of dust rising into the air. It looks terrible. It feels bad, but it has to happen. All the BS has to come.
So because this is at the end of the era, the age of destruction, that's why we really, 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 really are finally seeing it crumble.
Yes. Yes.
Because I would have thought at the end of World War II, and the people that fought in World War II thought it was done at the end of the First World War.
Yes, exactly right.
Or to end all wars. And that's just recent history. I mean, if we go further back, there's so many times when it was like, are we done yet? Aren't we done? Aren't we? So I'm so grateful to hear that age is finally complete. And then the work that we do as bringers of light, as light leaders, as people that open up and see, have visionary senses and like you as a channel of higher entities, that we can actually finally see that there is that bridge to the fifth dimension, that there is that bridge to a world that works for everyone and where there is love and acceptance.
Yes. Yeah. You and I and everyone watching, we're part of that bridge.
Yeah.
We have come here to anchor light and create a bridge between the madness and disorder and utter inequalities of the third dimension to the joy and fulfillment of the fifth dimension. And you mentioned the world wars and the other conflicts after that, particularly the world wars. I see that as a preamble to what we are experiencing now, the renewal we're going to be experiencing once all of this tumbles down fully, because those world wars were planned. They're planned by the same people who are creating the madness we're seeing now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Profit. Profit. I don't know if you remember the old film Warren Beatty and Diane Keaton were in called.
Yes. Red.
And they have him stand up at some point. He's a journalist, and it's all men, in this very august political society, and they're in their white tie and tuxedos. And they ask him, "Would you please give us a word on, give us your insights, please, on the reasons for this war?" I guess it was World War I they were dealing with, and the true cause, and on and on. And he stands up and he just says, "Profit," and then he sits down again. It was one of the best lines I've ever heard in any film I've ever seen, because he was completely honest. And the whole room kind of exploded in chatter and upset, because these are all titans of industry, and they didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear something hyper political and all about allegiance to one's country and, patriotism about this and that. And but he was honest, and it is all about, look at all the weapon sales we're doing.
Oh my gosh.
They want to take money from working people to support yet another huge tax cut for the billionaires, but they're never going to take it from this overinflated, ridiculous military budget, because too many people
are making money.
Are making billions from it, yeah, and trillions. The Pentagon is in it up to its neck. I'm kind of surprised. What they've been doing is really a coup d'etat, particularly what young Muskrat is up to. He's not an elected official. He's not been properly vetted as a cabinet member, but he's been given tremendous power, unprecedented power. He ought to have been arrested. So I'm kind of looking at the Pentagon like, what are you people doing? What the hell? Why are you sitting there? Exactly. In addition to which, they let go two very brilliant generals from the Pentagon, because one was Black and one was female. And not at all unusual for that crowd.
So, no, not at all. Not
and
at all.
The latest, ever so slight kerfuffle where they released war plans, which they're claiming weren't war plans, to the public by handing it to a journalist. I'm of the opinion, and I'm hearing right now from my team, that wasn't a mistake. Somebody added Goldberg in to that list.
Yeah.
That's true.
So Caroline, would you be willing to invite your team in to have to shed more light?
Sure.
Will, on this conversation and what's occurring, because I would really love an extra dose of hope.
Okay.
Not to direct anybody, but
they can float all kind. I'm sorry, I keep messing with my shirt. They can float beautiful higher energies and support to anybody. They really can, because they're here to encourage us. They know how tough it is to be in a human body, many of them in the collective. And for people who don't know, these are ascended masters, archangels, different phylum of angels, phyla of angels, different light beings and benevolent ETs, and the dragon tribes of the light as well. So I'll just call them in. If everybody just wants to go into their breathing for a moment, you're breathing in slowly, in through the nose with mouth closed. And when you're ready, just blow out like you were kind of whistling or blowing out through a tiny straw. I find that very helpful to go back into that parasympathetic nervous system state where everything is calm. So just carry on with that for a moment. I'll bring them in. Oh, greetings, dear ones. We are very pleased to have this time to speak with all of you today. And what a beautiful day it is, as spring has begun, as our writer was saying, and Astara celebrated. Some might still be celebrating the beauty of spring. And as well, yes, the end of the Kali Yuga. Notice that all of you came in at that time. You didn't come in 100 years ago, at least not with the intentions you hold now. You might have been here, but right now your intentions are incredibly high. You specifically came in to live a life in this time of turning and renewing and rebirthing earth life. And it's not because you want to completely condemn how everything's always gone on the earth. You realize maybe we had some kind of reason for going through what we went through, and we learned a lot. We decided, well, what's it like to learn through struggle or lack or sadness or grief or anger, on and on. And there's no judgment for those experiences and those emotions in the higher realms. It's all just chalked up to, well, everybody's learning. That's all right. And even those who commit dark deeds, they will have to extricate themselves from their loyalties to the lower realms at some point if they want to experience real joy and if they don't want their souls to degrade over time. But that is their business, dear ones. Right now, your job is to be as joyful as you can, almost in defiance. And you may have heard some people say this, be joyful in defiance of what you see on the news. In fact, we would caution you, don't watch the news too often, maybe just every now and again, to have a little bit of information. And when it just sort of devolves into a lot of chatter and what ifs and, oh, this might happen next, just let it go, dear ones. Just absolutely let it go and move on to something that really gives you joy. The important thing each day is to take time for yourselves where you're just sitting quietly. You're calling light into your body, that beautiful ray of light straight down through the body that connects you to earth and the crystalline energy grid. And then when it's ready, it goes back up again to the higher realms. And you're absolutely perpetuating this new dedication to considering earth is not so far from the higher realms. And yes, it's possible to have heaven on earth. That is not impossible. You've all come forward now to help to anchor that. And so if you have any specific questions, dear one, we are happy to assist, of course. But we would just say, all is well, dear ones. You know, our writer has started saying, even if she's having a tough time with technology or questions about this or that, and oh, I don't feel like doing my tax return and on, somehow all is well. And then there's that, of course, the beautiful phrases from not Hildegard of Bingen, but Julian of Norwich. All is well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And you know, this is just it's a kind of truth that one can't shake, even if one wants to. We will say that many people are struggling right now, dear ones. If you need help to get through depression, please absolutely reach out for that. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're not spiritual enough. It doesn't mean you don't love God or the universe or yourself enough. It just means that there's something coming up to the surface that badly needs to be released. So honor that, dear ones. Take good care of yourselves. But those of you who are not suffering that way, you're going to have to find a way to laugh every day. Even if you are depressed occasionally, you're going to have to find a way to play music and sing every day. You're going to have to find any reason you can think of to do a bit of dancing or spend time with children or animals, certainly out in nature. Take a walk where there are trees and tell the trees, I love you. I will help protect you, even if others don't honor you. And what wisdom do you have for me today, friend? And put a hand on a tree trunk and ask to hear their story or their wisdom for your life. They're wonderfully intuitive. And every day, speak with your spirit team, speak with your higher self, your guides, your angels. They're there for you, particularly on those days when you feel to be out of answers. Very, very important. It's true you're never alone. We would desire for you, dear ones, that you fully realize that and that you live that out rather than remembering sporadically and the rest of the time being a bit angry or unhappy or fed up or stressed or just exhausted, because this light pouring in very often will exhaust a person.
Yeah.
And time's moving faster. So you're not really getting those full 8 hours or 9 hours you used to get, or even 6 or 7 hours. That's flying past now. So what used to be an hour, your hour now, is basically maybe 12 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No wonder. Thank you for that.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to have to be kind and patient with yourselves. You're like, oh, how did the day get away from me? And oh, how can I get all this done? Just do everything you can, dear ones. Don't be hard on yourself. Try to create order in your surroundings. Yes, of course, dear one.
I know the answer to this. I heard it already when you were talking, but how can we accept the other? How can we accept the ones that we think are the perpetrators?
Yes,
or I don't even know if accept is the right thing, but so that we're not continually fueling division, but coming into unification, and not from a low level agreement, but a higher level acceptance, I guess.
Wonderful. Excellent. This perpetuation of division in the US and other countries of left and right, this has only been created to keep you angry at one another and to distract you from what's going on the power crowd level, as our writer would say. And so you've tapped into that beautifully. And how not to judge. You know, you can look at some politician or some administrative person or someone, you know, of influence in the media, and you can say, you know, I'm going to extend patience to you and compassion because I also have lived in a time when I didn't want to face the truth. I preferred lies. I felt that they served me. I preferred loyalty to those whom I profited from or got a pat on the head from. And I'm just going to show you some decency and compassion, and I'm not going to blame you because you're playing a role. I'm playing a role. This is what we do on the earth. We all play roles, and we learn from this person being the villain, this person being a wonderful, say, teacher or social worker, or the activist who says the truth when nobody else dares.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bravery happening. It's very beautiful to see. People are just living out what they came in to do. Now, those of very, very dark orientation, who are dark entities basically in physical form, tend not to plan so much as to be programmed to fulfill certain roles. They don't write out a life chart or a blueprint before incarnating generally, because they're not so much in the higher realms where that sort of thing happens, and they don't have the helps spiritually. They have thrown all of them out, except for these dark lords whom they answer to, and then they just get assignments from them. They're owned by them. You can feel rather bad for people who are owned instead of being free agents in this universe. You don't have to consider that they're equal to you and have more power in this way or that. Can they really have power over you? Now, what does that mean except that it's your consciousness that you would be looking at first, and they have no control over your consciousness, not even any influence, unless you give it to them. And we would encourage everyone to not do that, to give over your consciousness to divine love, to ask to embody divine love, and to be in places of joy with that, and to want to embody divine peace and divine order in your life. And as you're anchoring that in the world, you might think, oh, well, it's just little me. You know, I can't really change anything. You can change everything. You are anchoring a ton of light. All people do all day long, dear ones, is relate to energy and emit energy, transmit it, emit it, and receive it. And, you know, sort of inculcate that, integrate it into their own energy. So what are you integrating would be one question. We don't say that judgmentally. We would just say, if you listen to music where, say, women are respected, quite the opposite, what are you taking in? You know, if you watch stuff on TV that's very violent, what are you taking in, particularly if it affects you, particularly if you feel upset about it? If you're watching the news, which was created partly to be entertainment and partly to be a matter of programming and entrainment, you know, as they call television schedules programming. Very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The news wasn't created to keep anybody in a situation where they're well informed. It was created to help control people's minds. Look at the word government. Govern, which actually means control, meaning the mind. And this is not helpful to feel to be under the pressure and under the boot of someone who decides, well, these minions need to be controlled and used. You didn't come in for that, dear ones. You came in to be the gods and goddesses that you are. You came in to be co-creators with this universe. So we're not saying get angry at them and face them down and yell at them. We would just say, certainly, if you want to call people in DC or representatives and say, please don't cut funding for this and please continue to support this and that, that's wonderful. But you mainly came in to anchor that light and to decide, I am a sovereign being. I am utterly sentient. I am not somebody's minion. I am not somebody's little pawn to shove around the chessboard. I am a full human being, actually divinity itself in human form. they don't have any power over me unless I grant them that. So this is
Thank
what we
you.
would encourage dear ones, of course. Yes.
Thank you so much. That is very helpful. Very helpful.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. You came in to remember how powerful you are while you're in a human body. Other lives, other eras, very hard to do that. The environment on the earth energetically was very low, but here and now it keeps rising. It keeps going up. So you've got a far, far better chance of it now. And you're all doing it one way or another. You just don't always notice the small increments. But we see it and we're thrilled. We're celebrating. Yes.
Oh boy. Thank you for that too. Yes. Thank you.
Of course. Absolutely. And we welcome you up to these fifth dimensional energies. We welcome you because you're far more at home with that and you can do more with joy. And, you know, this idea, as Loretta was speaking of, and you were as well, dear one, of releasing struggle as, oh, well, this makes me stronger. Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not entirely true, we would say. But also, you're not here to struggle, not anymore. That's the very old paradigm. And religion would jump in and say, oh, you know what? Say these words and you'll be saved. You'll be okay. You're, you know, rather pathetic and low and dreadful. But if you believe this or this or this for this particular God, that will make you almost okay, almost acceptable. And then you've got to keep after yourself and criticize yourself constantly and go through a lot of guilt and shame in order to stay within those very rigid lines. And this is a very sad situation. You know, speaking of Christianity in particular, our writer will often say Yeshua, whom people call Jesus, Jesus of Nazareth, never intended anything but that we would love ourselves and other people. He never intended guilt and shame. He was trying to move away from that old paradigm. And unfortunately, you know, his teachings got twisted and shoved into a political structure, substructure. And
we're seeing all of that being played out in the Middle East, you know, where it's that it's anchored in there. It's, you know, through the blood that's been shed for thousands of years after they twisted what he said and did and showed and modeled for us. And it's down in that. So I believe, this is my belief, in the blood that's been shed. And it becomes very hard for people that live in that area to change their perspective, I believe.
Well, they're raised with it, and the environment in the Middle East is, you know, there, as you say, there's just so much violence and disorder sown into the ground. And there are reasons for that the old power structure has furthered and developed so as to protect their interests in the area. And so, you know, people who are constant upheaval are a bit easier to control if they're starving and they've lost family members, they're utterly traumatized. This is very, very hard it's very hard for them to look at anybody and say, look, we're going to exercise our sovereignty and you're going to stop sending bombs here and stop making money off of death and the war machine. Now, interestingly, in this era, what's going on in the Middle East is that the ships are hovering over a lot of the mass destruction areas. They're beaming people up. They're assisting them with medical care and clean food and water and helping them, curing them of their trauma as well as their physical injuries. And this isn't reported because they cloak their ships. But if you go to rainbowroundtable.net, look at their news updates and you'll see this. Absolutely beautiful. And it's run by two white knights, a husband and wife, who are friends of our writers. And they speak with people, particularly the husband speaks with people just about every day and gets new updates on what's going on in the world. And he shares those. And this is the reality. This is the truth. These people who are his contacts are ascended masters. He has seen Archangel Michael. He doesn't usually quote archangels, and yet Archangel Michael is on the ground with his army, his forces of light. He is here with many powerful, thousands and thousands of powerful angels. And there are several million as they call sovereign world militia members and white knights serving under the Ashtar command. And so we're, you know, human beings, you're not alone in this, dear ones. You're not at all alone, no.
I so appreciate that too, you know, and I can feel and envision it as you were speaking.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Even some who have died in the Middle East, once they're brought up on the ship, they can be returned to life if that is what they decide. And probably they speak with people on a soul level so as to determine. And nobody's sent back until they're really ready. If they're not ready, they want to stay on the ship, that's fine. Even some U.S. soldiers have been brought up onto the ships from Afghanistan, etc. And quite a number have chosen to remain on the ships. They don't want to go back, understandably.
Understandably, yes. Who would want to?
Mhm.
Especially if you're able to have a better experience.
Of course, it's high vibrational.
Mhm.
No, these are benevolent presences. Yes,
Yes.
wonderful.
Wow. Thank you for that. I hadn't anticipated that. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, dear one. Yeah. So if you have any other question, this is fine.
Um, Actually, I would like to talk about the dragons with Caroline because she's written that book.
Absolutely, dear one. And so we'll bring our writer back now. We send much love, many blessings to all. Very, very thankful for your beautiful presences upon the earth at this time.
Thank you.
Namaste. Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much.
Oh my God, Caroline, thank you because it makes me, I want to cry. It's just, it's so beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for requesting that they come in. I wasn't sure if you would request that, but I was glad because what they flow from their heart space is this beautiful, loving energy that really encourages people and reminds them you are never alone. No worries.
And I felt that even through all the different ideas that they were presenting, I just felt that love the whole time. So, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I just want to, and so maybe what we do is you just come back and we just talk specifically about your dragon books that you're writing and the current one that is has just come out,
Yes.
The Spirit of the Dragon Tribes. I think that's what we got to do, Caroline, because I don't want to give you less time to talk about that. And um like I said to you before we started, I have been starting to pay attention to dragons in ways that well, I've always believed in them, and unicorns. And the fae, and I'm that person. And and I can feel them and see them at times. But so I'm doing a deeper dive into how that works in my personal life. And I'm meeting people, more and more people that have been working with dragons recently or all their lives. And so, yeah, the Spirit of the Dragon Tribes. Briefly, what called you to do that? Because I know you're going to do a series and all this stuff. So I want to give you a dedicated time for that. But what called you to talk about the dragons?
You say that you're noticing dragons more and thinking about them more. I hear other people saying this. And I had a day where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I had a day where I was wandering the rail yard area, which is full of these adorable shops and art galleries and whatnot. And I kept seeing dragons pictured, or a stuffed dragon in a bookstore or whatever that went with a child's book about dragons. And I kept seeing dragons throughout the day. It was so cool. And I had already started the book at that point, but I'm just going to ask my team because I don't remember how it started exactly. I think they nudged me, and that the Dragon Tribes also kind of nudged me. They came forward and kind of asked. I do talk to them a lot in my sleep state. And I have a beautiful dragon friend who's right here with me. Lady Janessa. She's red, she's ruby red, and often their bellies are a lighter color, but a bit kind of pearlescent. But it's part of, I feel strongly it's part of the divine feminine returning to the earth. And we were talking earlier about the wounded masculinity, and the divine feminine presence was shifted out of the earth for a very, very long time, thousands of years. And now that she's come back very, very powerfully, and the goddess consciousness has come back very powerfully, there's no getting rid of that presence. And what is happening is we're becoming more heart-based, and more our true selves, more engaged with our authenticity rather than the survival self created purely to get by, the reptilian brain instinct just to survive and just basically, the kill or be killed sort of a thing. We're absolutely abandoning that. Now, you do see some forces trying to weave that deeply into human consciousness. That's because they're terrified that it's leaving. They know it's leaving. They know it's full power crowd knows it's over. So they're going out kicking and screaming. But the dragons are so heart-based. They're so beautiful and so wonderful. And they live to be thousands and thousands of years old. And it used to be safe for them to be very visibly on the earth. Now, some are still showing up, but not to the masses. And what I mean by that is if you go to those news updates at rainbowroundtable.net, you'll see maybe some, and it's in the book as well, Spirit of the Dragon Tribes, but I footnote this, but there are dragons flying over, these are water dragons flying over the South Seas near China to let the navies there know we are not going to tolerate any open fighting. Don't even think about sending missiles, nuclear or otherwise, etc. In fact, I know that the Ashtar Command has said that if the order even begins to be formed in some government official's mind to loose nuclear missiles at another country, the Ashtar Command will come in immediately and Nasara law will be established immediately. And that's been sitting still for 25 years, waiting for full enactment. And that will end all wars. It will end all standing armies. It will end all debt. It will establish peace around the world. It would just be phenomenal. So we absolutely send light to that until the day it happens. But yeah, everything's becoming more heart-based. And so I feel that the dragons are the beautiful mouthpiece for that. So are the Fae to a degree, but they just came through. And people, I always ask people on my subscriber list, I'll put out an email and say, please send in a question that you'd like to ask whomever it is I'm channeling from in, the next book. And so this is the dragon tribes. And a lot of people said, well, what are the different colors and the different jobs of the dragon tribes? So there's one chapter dedicated to that. Yeah. And then the last chapter, I actually wrote the question to, because they had said to somebody at one point, we are prophets, we are warriors, we are peacemakers, we are healers. And I said, well, how can you be all those things? And they explained that different individuals will take on different missions at different times. And they take their orders from the angelic beings, very high orders of angels, and whom you might call God's army, if you want to call it that, God, goddess. And they are just they're here for the purposes of love, and they have world leaders, people who are in power. They know the truth. They know that the Fae and the Elven kingdoms are real. They know the dragons are real, and ETs have been here for thousands of years. And you could walk past somebody in the street and not realize they're from another planet. They know all that, and the dragon tribes have conferred with and consulted and guided and counseled world leaders for thousands of years. They used to do it quite openly. And then it got, quieter and quieter. There's a lot of interesting beings. They're not animals. I'm kind of surprised when people call them animals. They are in that Chinese astrological chart. Yes. What is it, 13 beings, and the rest are animals. But the dragons, supposedly the only mythical aspect, they're not myth. They've been turned into myth, but they're very real. And they're higher dimensional beings, those who serve the light. And that's not to say that there weren't some who fell to the dark. Some did, but they live inside mountains. They live in the inner earth. They live in the seas. They take to the skies quite often. They can disguise. They can shift their molecular density so that they're not spotted, kind of like a ship cloaking itself. So they have to protect themselves from Earth armies. But they're here for us. Absolutely, they are. I had a really lovely experience a few weeks ago. I was in the dentist chair, which for me is not happy because I don't know teeth and gums, yeah, and receded gums, what have you. And I felt and kind of saw in my mind's eye my lovely dragon friend's hand coming onto mine, and I just gripped her hand, and that was wonderful. And then everything was fine after that. I didn't experience any discomfort. I wasn't unhappy. I had bad dental experiences as a kid, so I hate going to the dentist. But you have to do it if you don't want all your teeth to fall out. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah,
That's right. You
this,
know, and it's so interesting. I just want to let people know it be after what you were saying about the dragon tribes and people asking questions. I really believe this. If you have felt since you were a child, or as an adult now, that you're drawn to these genres, like my husband loves all the Star Trek and all the outer space stuff, but he also loves like we Game of Thrones and the Lord of the Rings and you know all of those. There's bits and pieces. I mean, the reason why they're in there, the dragons or the unicorns or whatever it is, the extraterrestrials, is because it's true. It's not something that somebody just crazily made up.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
it's memories that keep coming back to people, and then they go, "Oh, I'll write about that story then."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and so it's to me, it's true.
yeah. Perfect. Wonderful. When I was a kid and I saw the first Star Wars movie, I just stared at the screen. I thought, this is real.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not a joke or a fiction. This is real. And then come to find out both Star Trek and Star Wars came from channeled material.
yes,
They're
yes.
both channeled. So, I mean, no, it's not fake. Yes, it's real. We
And
all,
it's and the people that don't want to. Oh, wait a minute, Caroline. I'm kind of getting judgy here, but the people that want to ignore what's going on, and keep their low level, they go, "Oh, that's fantasy. That's not real." But I'm like, wait a minute. My husband and I, when we first got together, I believe in unicorns. I know they've been
yeah,
around. They're in coat of arms in heads of many different families in Europe. Why would they make up a unicorn unless they were real, right? They have a lion and they have a unicorn. Hello, but
and
he would say, no, they're not real. They're just fantasy. And yet he's fascinated with all these other genres that hold those ancient wisdoms. It's kind of is an ancient wisdom, right?
absolutely. I can see him up on the ships at night in his etheric body. He's very busy right now. He's aiding different Earth missions, your husband. So he's doing really well. Yeah. You're a little more Earth-based, but you're out there playing with the elves and the fae and dragon friends and the etheric. You just have a ball. And meanwhile, working with the crystalline energy grid. I see you working with crystals as well.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
we're
I'm really glad that he's doing some work while he's sleeping because I often ask him, so what did you dream about? He goes, I never remember. I can't
now,
remember.
no, he's not going to remember. I remember a few of my dreams from when I was on the ship, which weren't like dreams. They were as clear as the images were as clear as I'm seeing you right now. And it's pretty cool. It really is. Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
doesn't
really.
happen very often. Every now and
Wow.
again, the blow. Yeah.
All right. So Caroline, you're definitely coming back. We'll get, we'll get you rescheduled or scheduled again. But Caroline Oceana Ryan, I started it this way. I'm going to end it this way. I'm so grateful for your willingness. Oh man, I'm getting huge energy. Your willingness to be a vessel. I am so grateful for your intelligence, your human intelligence that has brought you to this place at this time so that all of us can benefit. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
The collective always say we are honored to assist, and I'm honored to assist as well. So thank you so much, Susan. Thank you for having me on. And I just want to say if somebody wants to look into the work, it's ascensiontimes.com.
And we'll have all that information in the show notes, everybody, so you don't have to worry about it. But until next time, I'm just going to say, and so it is, namaste. Well, that wraps up our empowering chat for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and found it inspired you to be more empowered. If you want to find out more about me, go to susanburrell.com, my website, and you can see what we're up to. I am teaching classes again, so there's a calendar of that. and you can register. You can check out my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-day journey with the companion inspiration cards, or you can access my guided meditations that go through Insight Timer. We got a bunch of stuff on the website. Check it out. And until then, namaste.